On a quiet night in Cresthill, a black man in a luxury car is maliciously pulled over by a seasoned officer. Frustrated about a black leader he has never met, the officer redirects his anger at the driver, quickly turning a routine check into a blatant attempt to frame him. When the driver is about to be handcuffed, the rookie officer in the passenger seat is forced to make a choice: stay silent or expose the truth. They don't know that the driver is the very boss they had just mentioned, and what follows will be exactly what they deserve for the choice they made. The patrol car rolled down the dimly lit streets of Cresthill, its headlights cutting through the fog that had begun to settle over the quiet neighborhoods. Officer Travis Boone, a grizzled veteran of the force with nearly 30 years under his belt, gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. His jaw clenched, his lips curled into a sneer as he spat out his frustration. "Can you fucking believe this, Ryan?" he growled, his voice dripping with barely contained rage. "They went and put a goddamn outsider in charge of us. A fucking politician in a badge. And guess what? He ain't even one of us." Seated in the passenger seat, Officer Ryan Lewis, a fresh-faced rookie barely a year into the job, shifted uncomfortably. He already knew where this conversation was going. It had been all anyone in the department had been talking about since the announcement. A new chief of police had been appointed, Jeremiah Cole, a name that had sent shockwaves through the ranks. Not because he was inexperienced. Not because he was unqualified. No, it was because he was black. Ryan cleared his throat, unsure how to respond. I heard he's got a solid record. Served in." Travis cut him off with a bitter chuckle. "A solid record. Yeah, sure. For running community outreach programs and kissing politician ass. That's all these people are good for, you know. Talking a big game about reform and accountability like they got a damn clue what it's like out here." He slammed his palm against the steering wheel for emphasis, shaking his head. "You mark my words, kid. This department's gonna go straight to hell. Next thing you know, we'll be handing out apology notes to gangbangers instead of cuffs. Can't wait to see what kind of bullshit diversity training they're gonna force down our throats." Ryan swallowed hard, forcing himself to look out the window, watching as the streetlights flickered past. He didn't like the way Boone talked, had never liked it, but he also wasn't stupid. He was still new. He needed to keep his head down, play along, not rock the boat. Boone was respected, feared even. Crossing him wasn't an option. Then, as if fate itself wanted to prove Boone's point, a sleek black Cadillac Escalade pulled onto the road ahead of them. It was moving at a steady, legal pace, nothing erratic, nothing suspicious. But Boone tensed immediately, his eyes narrowing. Well, what do we got here?" His voice took on a mocking lilt, the kind he used when he thought he was being clever. "Look at that ride. Brand new, top of the line. And would you look at that who's behind the wheel? Big surprise, huh?" Ryan hesitated before following Boone's gaze. Behind the wheel was a black man in his 40s, sharp suit, clean-shaven, an air of authority about him. He exuded the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who you were. "A brother driven a car like that in this part of town?" Boone scoffed. "Simon, kid, you know the drill. You really think he got that legit? Bet my damn pension he's either slinging dope or scamming white folks out of their money." Ryan felt his stomach tighten. "We don't have a reason to stop him, Boone. He hasn't." Boone's smirk widened. "Oh, we'll find one." Before Ryan could protest further, Boone flicked on the flashing red and blue lights, signaling the driver to pull over. The Escalade's brake lights glowed bright in the darkness before it smoothly rolled to a stop by the curb. Ryan exhaled slowly, his pulse quickening. Something about this felt off. He could feel it in his gut, but he didn't move. Didn't speak. Boone, on the other hand, was already unbuckling his seatbelt, grinning like a predator that had just caught sight of its prey. "Time to see what our friend here is really up to." With that, he threw the door open and stepped out onto the street. The cool night air hit Travis Boone's face as he stepped out of the patrol car, rolling his shoulders like a boxer loosening up before a fight. His boots crunched against the pavement as he swaggered toward the black Escalade, his smirk widening with each step. This was his favorite part, reminding people like this that they didn't belong. Ryan Lewis followed a step behind, heart pounding in his chest. He told himself to stay calm, to just watch and listen. Don't get involved. Don't make it worse. The driver's window rolled down smoothly. Jeremiah Cole sat behind the wheel, posture relaxed but eyes sharp, studying the two officers as if he already knew exactly how this was going to play out. Boone leaned in, placing both hands on the edge of the window like he was staking a claim. "Even in, sir." Boone dragged out the last word, letting it drip with condescension. "License and registration." Cole moved slowly, deliberately, reaching into the glove compartment. His hands never disappeared from sight. He knew the rules. He knew the risks. He pulled out his wallet, handed over his documents without a word. Boone snatched them, barely glancing at the details before flicking his eyes back to Cole. "Fancy car you got here. What brings you to this side of town?" Cole met his gaze without flinching. "I live here." Boone chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. "Sure you do. And what is it you do for a living, Mr. Cole?" "I work in law enforcement." Ryan blinked. That was unexpected. But Boone didn't even react, just made a low, amused noise in his throat. "That right. What, you a security guard or something?" "Something like that." Boone's jaw twitched. He didn't like that answer. He wanted submission, compliance, fear. But this guy, he wasn't afraid. Boone straightened up, flipping through the paperwork with exaggerated boredom. "Thing is, I don't see a car like this every day, especially not with a driver like you. Makes me wonder if there's anything in here you shouldn't have." Cole exhaled slowly, like a man who had been through this routine too many times to count. "You don't have probable cause to search my vehicle, officer." Boone's grin stretched wider. There it was. That defiance. That arrogance. "See, that's where you're wrong. I got a real good reason to check this car." He let the moment drag, then leaned in, voice dropping low. "You're driven it." Ryan tensed beside him. "Jesus Christ, Boone." Cole didn't react, didn't even blink. "Am I being detained?" Boone tilted his head, pretending to consider. Then, without warning, he reached for the door handle and yanked the door open. "Step out of the vehicle." Ryan's stomach dropped. This was bad. Cole's jaw tightened, but he moved carefully, unbuckling his seatbelt and stepping onto the pavement. His suit was crisp, his shoes polished, his movements measured. Every choice deliberate. Every action designed to avoid giving Boone an excuse. Boone circled him like a vulture, eyes scanning up and down, looking for something, anything to latch onto. Hands on the hood. Cole hesitated, just for a second. But Boone saw it. And he pounced. "Got something to hide, Mr. Cole?" "No," Cole said evenly. "I just don't appreciate being harassed for no reason." Boone chuckled. "Harassed? Oh, see, I'm just doing my job, protecting the fine people of Crest Hill from suspicious activity." "Suspicious activity like driving home?" Boone's grin faltered. His fingers twitched toward his belt. Ryan saw the shift, felt the energy in the air tighten, electric and dangerous. "That's funny," Boone muttered, voice quieter now, darker. "You think you're real smart, don't you?" Cole didn't answer. Boone nodded like he'd just made a decision. "All right then. Let's see how smart you feel when we find what you're hidden." And before Ryan could stop him, Boone reached into his pocket, pulled out a small plastic bag of white powder, and with practiced ease, let it slip under the driver's seat. Ryan saw it. He saw it. His breath hitched, his hands clenched into fists. Well, Boone drawled, stepping back like he'd just uncovered a crime scene. "Looks like we got ourselves a drug dealer." Cole's eyes flashed not with fear, but with something deeper, something heavier. "That's not mine." His voice was calm. Too calm. "Oh, sure. That's what they all say. Ain't it, Ryan?" Boone elbowed the younger cop, laughing like this was some kind of inside joke. Ryan's pulse pounded in his ears. His throat felt tight. He looked at Boone, at Cole, at the bag under the seat. This wasn't just a traffic stop anymore. This was a frame job. And he was standing right in the middle of it. Cole turned to him then. Just a slight shift of his gaze. "Officer Lewis." Ryan's breath caught. "You saw what happened." His mouth went dry. His heart hammered. And Boone's voice came low, dangerous, dripping with warning. Watch yourself, kid. The world seemed to shrink, the moment stretching out like a knife's edge. Ryan had a choice. Speak up or stay silent. And either way, everything was about to change. Ryan Lewis's heart pounded against his ribs, his pulse roaring in his ears as the night around him seemed to close in, suffocating. The street lights overhead buzzed faintly, their yellow glow flickering against the pavement, but all he could see was the plastic bag sitting under the driver's seat. He had seen Boone plant it. There was no doubt, no question. And now Jeremiah Cole, his hand still resting calmly on the hood of his car, was looking at him, waiting, his gaze sharp and steady. Officer Lewis, Cole repeated, voice even, measured, as if testing the weight of each word before releasing it into the heavy night air. You saw what happened. Ryan's breath hitched. His throat felt like it was closing. Watch yourself, kid, Boone murmured beside him, his voice a low, venomous warning. His hand hovered near his belt, just above his holster, fingers twitching with barely concealed aggression. His meaning was clear. Don't fucking do this. Don't open your mouth. Ryan swallowed hard, his stomach twisting itself into knots. This was it. The moment that decided everything. Sir, Cole said, directing his attention back to Boone now, his voice cool, unwavering. I am not in possession of anything illegal. You just planted that evidence. Boone let out a sharp, mocking laugh, shaking his head like he'd just heard the dumbest shit in the world. Oh, that's rich. You hear this guy, Ryan? Another one of these innocent victims. Poor guy just happened to have a bag of coke sitting under his seat. What are the odds? Cole didn't take the bait. His eyes flicked to Ryan again. He could see the war raging inside the younger officer, the way his hands trembled at his sides, the way his jaw clenched so tight it looked like it might snap. Officer Lewis, Cole said, slower this time, pressing into the silence, are you going to let this happen? Ryan felt like he couldn't breathe. His fingers curled into fists, nails digging into his palms. His father's voice, a man who had served on the force for 25 years, with nothing but pride in his duty, echoed inside his skull. A good cop protects and serves, Ryan, all people, no matter what. You don't turn a blind eye. Not ever. But Boone was right there, watching him, reading him, waiting for him to fold. Clock's ticking, kid, Boone muttered under his breath, then turned back to Cole with a smirk. All right, Mr. Big Shot. Enough games. Hands behind your back. He reached for his cuffs. And Ryan snapped. No. The word cut through the night like a gunshot. Boone froze mid-motion. Slowly he turned his head toward Ryan, disbelief flashing in his eyes before it hardened into something colder, sharper. What the fuck did you just say? Ryan took a step forward, pulse hammering in his ears, but his voice was steadier now. I said no. We're not doing this. Boone's expression twisted into something dark, something ugly, something Ryan had never really seen before, not aimed at him. You better think real hard about what you're saying right now, Lewis. Ryan shook his head, forcing himself to hold Boone's gaze. I don't need to think. I saw you plant that bag. I know exactly what you're doing. Boone's face darkened, his mask of authority slipping, revealing something mean and unfiltered beneath. And what? You gonna report me? Testify against your own partner? Against the guy who showed you the ropes? The guy who had your back? He took a step closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You really think this department's gonna take your word over mine? Ryan felt his stomach twist, doubt clawing at the edges of his resolve. Boone was right about one thing: this department was full of people like him. Even if Ryan reported this, who would actually listen? Who would actually believe him? But then he looked at Cole. Still standing there, still waiting. And in that moment Ryan made his choice. He turned back to Boone, stood his ground. I don't care, Ryan said, his voice clear, unwavering. I'm not letting you frame an innocent man. Boone's lips curled into a snarl, his entire body tensing. You little fucking rat. His hand jerked toward his belt. Ryan's muscles coiled. Was Boone actually going to? But before anything could happen, Cole finally moved. Enough. His voice was sharp, commanding, the kind of voice that stopped men in their tracks. Boone hesitated, his fingers twitching near his holster, but something in Cole's tone, something undeniable, made him freeze. And then Cole reached into his jacket. Boone flinched, Ryan's breath caught. But Cole didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a badge. A gold badge. A chief of police badge. Boone stared. The color drained from his face. You have got to be fucking kidding me. Cole let the moment stretch, let it sink in as he held the badge between two fingers, his expression unreadable. I was on my way to headquarters when you pulled me over, Officer Boone. So congratulations. You just attempted to frame your new chief of police. Silence. For the first time that night, Boone looked rattled. But then, his mouth twisted into something ugly, something dripping with pure, unfiltered hate. You think that means shit to me? He spat. You think I give a fuck who you are? Cole tilted his head slightly, studying him. Completely unfazed. No, he said, voice calm. I think that's the problem. Ryan felt the weight of those words settle over everything. Over the night. Over his own chest. Boone's nostrils flared, rage boiling beneath his skin. He wasn't going down quietly. This is bullshit, Boone growled. You don't belong in that position. You don't belong in that fucking uniform. You and your kind. That's enough, Cole said again, and this time Ryan heard it. The finality in it. The authority in it. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the night. Back up. Boone stiffened. Cole exhaled slowly, like a man who had seen this moment coming from the very beginning. He turned to Ryan. You made the right choice tonight, Officer Lewis. And for the first time, Ryan believed him. The wail of sirens cut through the night, distant but closing in fast. Red and blue lights flickered against the buildings at the far end of the street, creeping closer, swallowing the darkness in flashes. Ryan's pulse hammered in his ears, his breathing shallow, his hands slick with sweat at his sides. Boone was seething, his jaw clenched so tight Ryan swore he could hear his teeth grinding. His entire body radiated something volatile, something dangerous, like a live wire ready to snap. Chief Jeremiah Cole stood his ground, unwavering. His badge still gleamed under the streetlights, held firm in his grip, as he studied the man who had just tried to ruin him. Officer Boone, he said, calm, measured, a man completely in control. You're done. Boone let out a sharp, bitter laugh, shaking his head, but his eyes were wild now, unfocused, desperate. Oh yeah, he spat, taking a step forward, his fists tightening at his sides. You think you can just walk in here, flash a badge, and what? Make me disappear? You don't fucking belong here. You never did. Cole exhaled slowly, watching him with a kind of detached certainty, like a man who had seen this before, lived this before, survived this before. You still don't get it, do you? Cole said, tilting his head slightly. This isn't your department anymore. It never was. And tonight, you finally proved why. Boone's face darkened, his lips curling in disgust. He turned toward Ryan, his expression twisting into something sharp, predatory. And you, he hissed. You little rat. You really think this is going to end well for you? You think standing with him is going to save your ass when the rest of the department turns on you? Ryan's mouth was dry, his heart slamming against his ribs, but he didn't back down. Not this time. He forced himself to hold Boone's gaze, to stand in the choice he had made. I don't care, he said, and he meant it. Boone stared at him for a long second, something shifting behind his eyes, something Ryan might have mistaken for genuine betrayal. If he didn't already know, Boone was incapable of feeling anything but rage. Then, Boone moved. His hand snapped toward his belt, fingers curling around his baton. For a split second, Ryan thought he was reaching for his gun, and his stomach dropped. Boone was actually going to. Don't. Cole's voice cracked through the night like a gunshot, firm, absolute. His own hand hovered near his holster, not drawn but ready. Boone hesitated, his breath ragged, his chest rising and falling in erratic bursts. He knew he was cornered. He knew it was over. But he wasn't going down without a fight. The first squad car skidded to a stop beside them, doors flinging open. Officers spilled onto the scene, hands hovering over weapons, confusion written across their faces as they took in the sight. Their new chief of police, standing beside a rookie officer, both squaring off against one of their own. Sergeant David Hayes, one of the senior officers in the precinct, stepped forward. What the hell is going on here? Cole turned, voice steady, but leaving no room for argument. Officer Boone attempted an unlawful stop, planted false evidence, and tried to frame me for possession. Officer Lewis witnessed the entire thing. A heavy silence settled over the street, thick with tension. Some of the officers exchanged uneasy glances, shifting on their feet. Boone scoffed, shaking his head. "That's bullshit," he barked, voice ragged, desperate. "He's making that up." His eyes darted to Ryan, wild, pleading, threatening. "Tell them, Lewis. Tell them he's lying." Ryan inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of every single pair of eyes on him. And then, with a steadying breath, he turned to Sergeant Hayes. "It's true." The words felt like a gun going off. Boone snapped. "You fucking little bastard." He lunged, fury twisting his features, but before he could reach Ryan, two officers grabbed him, yanking his arms behind his back. He thrashed, snarling like a caged animal. "Get off me. I swear to God." "Officer Boone," Cole cut in, stepping closer, voice unshakable. "You're under arrest." Boone went still. It was a strange thing, watching a man realize he had lost. The fight drained from his body in a single, violent shudder, his breath coming in heavy, uneven bursts. His career, his power, his entire goddamn world gone. And yet, even as the cuffs clicked around his wrists, he still wouldn't shut up. "This is a fucking joke," Boone spat, voice raw with rage. "This department was built by men like me. You think you can change that? You think you can walk in here and turn this into some woke, liberal fucking circus? You'll never be one of us. Never." Cole didn't even blink. "That's the point." The officers dragged Boone toward the squad car, his curses fading into the background noise of radio chatter and murmured voices. Ryan stood frozen, his entire body still buzzing with adrenaline, his mind struggling to catch up with what had just happened. Cole turned to him. "Are you all right?" Ryan swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe. "Yeah," he muttered, but his voice came out hoarse, shaky. "Yeah, I think so." Cole studied him for a moment, then nodded. "You did the right thing tonight, Lewis." Ryan exhaled slowly, letting the words sink in, letting them mean something. And for the first time in his life, he felt like a real cop. The door of the squad car slammed shut, swallowing Boone's snarling protests into the steel and glass. His voice was muffled now, but Ryan could still make out the rage spilling from his mouth, his body thrashing against the seatbelt like a rabid animal. It didn't matter. He could yell all he wanted. It was over. The night felt strangely still now, as if the weight of what had just happened had pressed the city into silence. Officers stood in clusters, murmuring among themselves, their faces unreadable in the shifting glow of red and blue lights. Some looked at Ryan like he had just committed career suicide. Others, like they weren't sure whether to admire him or pity him. But none of them stepped forward. None of them said a damn word. Cole, standing just a few feet away, let out a slow, steady breath, like a man who had been waiting for this moment far longer than just tonight. He rolled his shoulders, adjusted his tie. Then, without looking at anyone else, he turned to Ryan. "Walk with me." Ryan hesitated only a second before falling into step beside him. The murmurs behind them faded as they moved, boots crunching against the asphalt, past the squad cars, past the flashing lights, until they reached the curbside where Cole's Escalade still sat, undisturbed except for the bullshit Boone had planted beneath the seat. Ryan stared at it for a long moment, the image of that tiny plastic bag still burned into his brain. "You ever think about why men like Boone feel so damn comfortable doing what they do?" Cole asked suddenly, his voice calm even. Ryan turned, frowning. "Because they think they'll get away with it." Cole gave a small, humorless chuckle, nodding once. "And why do you think that is?" Ryan exhaled through his nose. He already knew the answer, even if he hated saying it out loud. Because most of the time they do. Cole studied him for a moment, then nodded again, as if confirming something to himself. "You spoke up tonight. That took guts." Ryan shifted uncomfortably, crossing his arms. "Doesn't feel like it's going to mean much when the rest of the department turns their backs on me." "They might," Cole admitted. But let me ask you something. If you'd stayed quiet, if you'd let Boone get away with this, could you live with yourself? Ryan clenched his jaw, his stomach twisting at the thought. No, he couldn't. Cole must have seen the answer in his face, because he let out a small breath, shaking his head. Then it meant something. A heavy silence settled between them, thick with unspoken weight. Then, finally, Cole gestured toward the Escalade. Let's finish this. Ryan nodded, moving with him as Cole pulled open the driver's side door. The bag of powder was still there, sitting beneath the seat where Boone had so effortlessly placed it. Without hesitation, Cole reached down, plucked it between two fingers, and turned back toward the officers standing near the squad cars. Sergeant Hayes. The senior officer stiffened at the call, stepping forward, his expression carefully neutral. Chief. Cole held up the bag. You see this? Hayes's throat bobbed as he swallowed. He glanced at Ryan, then back to Cole, before nodding. Yes, sir. Good, Cole said evenly. Because in the morning you're going to log it into evidence. And then you're going to write a full report on what happened here tonight. No omissions. No bullshit. Understood. Hayes hesitated just a second too long. Then, finally, he gave a slow nod. Understood. Cole studied him for a long moment, then handed him the bag before turning back to Ryan. Go home, Officer Lewis. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Ryan knew what that meant. There were going to be consequences for this. For Boone. For him. For the entire goddamn department. And he wasn't ready for any of it. But he nodded anyway. Yes, sir. The fallout came fast. By morning, Boone was officially stripped of his badge, charged with falsifying evidence, misconduct, and obstruction of justice. The department was in an uproar. Some officers were quietly relieved. Others were outraged, furious that one of their own was being thrown under the bus over a misunderstanding. The union pushed back hard. There were whispers of an appeal, of protests within the department, of officers planning to walk out in solidarity. But Cole didn't flinch. If any man on my force believes that what Boone did was justified, he said in a press conference, his voice steady, unwavering, then they are free to hand in their badge and leave. Because under my leadership, we do not plant evidence. We do not frame innocent men. We do not betray the oath we swore to this community. And just like that, the divide was drawn. Boone's trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimonies damning. Ryan took the stand, recounting every detail of that night, the stop, the search, the planted bag, the threats. He didn't hold back. And when the verdict was read guilty on all charges, sentenced to 6 years without parole, Ryan felt something heavy uncoil in his chest. It was done. But it wasn't over. Because now came the hardest part, rebuilding what Boone and men like him had broken. 1 year later, Ryan adjusted the cuffs of his uniform, exhaling slowly as he stepped into the Crest Hill Police Academy auditorium. Rows of cadets sat before him, their eyes bright, uniforms crisp, badges still fresh and untouched by the weight of the job. Cole stood beside him, arms crossed, his presence still carrying the same quiet authority Ryan had come to respect over the past year. A year of change. A year of accountability. A year of tearing apart the rot inside the department and trying to build something better. Ryan swallowed once, then stepped up to the podium. When I joined this department, I thought being a cop was about loyalty, he started, his voice clear, steady. Loyalty to your partner. Loyalty to the guys in your squad. Loyalty to the badge. But I was wrong. A beat of silence. Loyalty means nothing if it isn't to the right things. To the truth. To justice. To the people we swore to protect. His eyes swept across the room, settling on the young men and women who would soon walk into the same fire he had. 1 year ago I had a choice, he continued. To stay silent or to stand up. And that choice cost me. It cost me friendships, it cost me trust, and for a while it damn near cost me my career. He exhaled, the memories sharp but no longer suffocating. But it was worth it. And if you ever find yourselves at that same crossroads, wondering whether doing the right thing is worth the risk, let me tell you this. His grip on the podium tightened. It always is. The room was silent. Then, one by one, the cadets rose to their feet. Cole placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "You did good, Officer Lewis." Ryan let out a breath, nodding once. For the first time, he believed it. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.